Yeah, good evening, guys. And AWS User Group Madurai welcomes you all for the AWS Cloud Practitioner Bootcamp. And as we are all in the as we are all community members, and we are meeting virtually over the events, so we have some rules to follow. Uh, be aware of others and speak to everyone respectfully and be friendly and patient and the peoples will be coming from all over the India. So we understand the difference and be kind and considerate to others. And always, our community members are there to help you out to solve your questions, and you can ask put out all your questions in our Slack channel. And we welcome you all to the AWS Cloud Practitioner Bootcamp, and it's a beginner friendly. Yeah, the participant with the zero knowledge can attend it, and you can learn all the concepts of AWS beginner level. And we are having a practice test and doubt clear sections. We will be arranging your doubt clearing sessions, and we are also having a on hands-on practice, and we are having giveaways and certificate of attendance, and we'll be giving task. Who are performing the task, they will be getting the giveaways and certificate of attendance, and giveaways will be in the form of AWS certification vouchers. And and we have today's our speaker, Poobalan B, and is a software engineer intern at Factset. Is and we are with episode 4, AWS S3. And it's a pleasure to have you, Bhubalan, and it's over to you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I hope my audio is clear, right?
Yeah, you're clear, Bhubalan.
Yeah, you can share my screen and share that.
Yeah, you can reduce your presentation screen.
Is it visible? Like, have you shared it?
Yeah, it's sharing. Wait a second, Bhubalan.
Yeah,
Yeah, now you can go ahead.
yeah. Good evening to everyone present here. Welcome to AWS Cloud Practitioner Bootcamp organized by AWS User Group Madurai. So, we are on a fourth episode of the bootcamp. So, in this bootcamp, we are going to cover AWS S3. Come, let's see like how AWS S3 works and what are the features that AWS S3 offers. So before going on deep into S3, so first we'll start from the beginning. So first we'll see how the storage has been evolved over times. So at first we have started to store the data using papers. So we'll use to collect the records from people. Either it can be like any use. So we started used to store papers. Then we move on to floppies. Then after a certain time we are not satisfied with the floppies because of their smaller size, and next came the CD and DVDs. So CD came first, and after the DVD. So they were ruling the storage part for some time. So after such certain period, the flash drives like the SD card and USBs, they came into picture, and mostly everyone was using them. And it was very good in the market as well. But currently most of our data, we are moving into cloud. So like we'll see later what are the advantages of moving our data into cloud. So but this is the evolution, like how the storage has been transformed from the beginning till now. So let's move on to the next slide. So let us consider like scenario, like let we go back and what we are doing before the cloud storage has been introduced in the market. So what the particular organization or the users will do is, in order to have a big storage, so they will purchase the hardware components as well as the software components supporting the hardware. And they need some group of maintenance experts in order to manage the components what they have purchased. So you need a team. So you need to hire a team especially for that. Then one another major issue like that was failing before the cloud storage is the scalability. So you cannot scale up the storage requirement suddenly high or suddenly low, because you will have the storage requirement only to the corresponding hardware you have installed. So the scalability also lacks a very bit before the cloud storage. And the other thing is security. So data being the new oil in the current trend, so you need to be keep your data secure if you are having your own storage. So the security requirements as well fall on the hands of the people who are setting up the storage unit. So like these are some of the drawbacks like what we have faced before we are adapting to cloud storage. So we'll see like how we are overcoming this in the later slides, like by adopting the cloud storage, how it solves all these problems. So next, like currently what motivates us to move on to cloud storage. So one such example I will say is like I need only the storage like what I need for, like I don't need, if I need only 50 GB, so give me 50 GB. So I do not need like a storage of 100 or 500. So you just give me what I need. I do not need no other excess capacity. So you can say it like that. So next we'll come into S3. So you'll see like the overview of like what is S3 and what are the common use cases where S3 is being used in nowadays. So S3 it expands as simple storage service. So it is one of the earliest cloud service that has been started providing by Amazon. So it's an object storage service. So we'll see later like what objects are, what buckets are. So it has a simple web interface, so you can use to store any objects like with any amount of data. So it can be larger or smaller from anywhere on the web. So if you have access to internet, then you can store and download data based on your interest. So S3 is a persistent data store. So persistence in the sense like even if your computer reboots or it goes wrong, so your data will not be erased. So it will be persistent and you can retrieve your data once your issues have been fixed. So S3 is one example of such a data store. So like S3 is not only for big industries. So even a small customers or a single user can use S3 for their projects, going through the large industries where they can store and protect any amount of data virtually for their use case. So every users will have individual use case, like one needs encryption, but yeah, it goes on the feature, right? So it depends on the customers. So it is from beginner to the industry level. So another major thing, like the advantage of using not only S3 but all the cloud services, is what you know pay for what you are using, right? So likewise, there's nothing different in S3. So you'll only pay for what you store in S3. That's actually in the buckets. So whatever you're storing it, so you'll be charged according to the storage what you're using. So let's see like common use case where S3 has been used nowadays. So mostly it is used like as a backup and archive for on-premises cloud. So on-premises, like a company is having their own setup of cloud, and they want some data backup to be present, so they can use S3 as a backup. And like if you're using some video firm, like you need like you're dealing with some large size videos, then you can use S3. You can store the videos in S3, then you can like share it across your customers. And big data analytics, static website hosting. Static website hosting, like we'll be doing a demo in the later part of the slide. And you can use like the S3 storage across all devices. The same storage you can access it either via like the console terminals or some of your applications. So they have the SDKs program, so you can access it from anywhere on any device. And another major thing is disaster recovery. So S3 is used to like as a disaster recovery storage as well. So next, we'll see what are the benefits that we get by using a cloud storage service. So the first is durability. So durable, like even if the current the storage, like the storages will be it will be on a data center in availability zones. So for example, if you're due to some disaster or some other external calamities, the data center has been affected. So you should not worry about, right? So it replicates your copies in some other availability zones. So mostly it will do it in 3 availability zones. Your data will be safe and you can easily retrieve, like if any one of the zone is failed. And it is low cost because as we said earlier, so if you're using any cloud service, you're only paying for what you are using. So it's very low cost and it is scalable. So here the storage size is not fixed, so you can increase or decrease the storage size like according to the stored objects that are present in the current bucket. So it is not fixed, so you can immediately go up and go down. So it's all up to you. So it is highly available, like as we said earlier, like it has multiple copies and you can use across devices. And security, so if you're using a cloud provider, then security comes in a major part. So you must be you must know that your data what you're pushing into cloud must be secure. So there are some different ways in which you can secure a data, just the flowing from your local machine to a cloud, vice versa. And the next comes flexibility. So the cloud provider gives you the flexibility, like you can customize, like one such example I will give you is for security. So there are some 3 to 4 types of security you can set on AWS S3. So it gives you the more flexibility to like operate on your storage. And the last one is simple data transfer. So for transferring the data from your device to the cloud storage, so it does not take some complex steps to do. So it will be very easy. So just a single click, you can upload the objects, and from a single click, you can download the objects from the cloud. So the data transfer is pretty simple using the cloud storage, especially in S3. So next, we'll move on to some of the key concepts that you must know before you are working with S3. So one is the buckets. So buckets, in the sense, so they are the container for objects. Like you'll store like the objects, in the sense it is like all the files or the metadata what you are wishing to store on the cloud. So you can create a container here is bucket. So you can create a bucket and you can store the objects inside the bucket. So it is of unlimited size, as I said earlier. So there is no nothing as like you should fix the size before you're creating a storage or something like that. So it's unlimited. It's use as you go. So next, you can access these objects that are present in the bucket using the HTTP protocol. Using some GET and POST requests, you can like get the object or put the object back into the bucket. So you can do that as well. So while creating a bucket, so some constraints will be followed. For example, the bucket name will be unique across the world. So you must give a unique name for your bucket. And for example, if you're creating your bucket or you need a particular bucket name in some given format, so if some other user who is owning the particular bucket deletes the bucket he's owning, then you can create the name like, so once the bucket is deleted, the name will be available, so for some other to take. So the naming convention is followed globally. So here you cannot create a bucket within another bucket. So you can create folders and subfolders inside a bucket, but you cannot create a bucket within another bucket. And the next we'll move on to this. You can have multiple versions of objects in your bucket, right? So like in the same file, you can have different versions. So we'll talk later about the versioning or how to enable versioning in our buckets. And the last is like it's just a URL, like how your bucket will be known to the web. So it's followed like HTTP your bucket name.s3.amazonaws.com/object name. If it's having some subfolders, you can use slash and add it at the end. So this will be the common URL structure of accessing the buckets. It will be stored in the cloud. So next, we'll move on to objects. So as I said earlier, you can see in this image, right? So this is the bucket, and the objects can be of different shapes. So shapes, in the sense here, it can be of different types. So it can be an image file or a text file or some HTML code or a Java code. So it basically depends on the user who is uploading the object in the cloud. So here the hierarchy, we're not following any hierarchy, like only this should be or that should. So here the objects are immutable. Once an object is uploaded in the S3, so you cannot change it there. So you can download and change or upload another version of the same object. And in S3, you can upload an object. The size should not be greater than 5 TB for a single object. So it should be less than or equal to 5 TB, sorry. And the object what you are like uploading into the bucket, they also will be uniquely identified with the help of the bucket by key and version ID. So we'll see that later, like how the version ID is associated with objects and how it's useful. So next, we'll move on to some of the maximums that are present in S3. So if you're using an AWS account, so for an account, you can create 100 buckets in the S3 storage. So the bucket limit is 100. And for an object, so you can upload an object of 5 TB, like the size should be less than or equal to 5 TB. It should not exceed. And the other one thing is like when you're like uploading an object into the S3 bucket. So on a single operation, it should be like less than or equal to 5 GB, right? So you cannot upload an object of size more than 5 GB through AWS console. So in order to overcome this issue, there's another concept called multi-part upload. So where you can use some AWS CLI or SDKs. So you can use that to upload the objects like which are more than 5 GB on a single upload. Okay. So these are some of the maximums that has been set on S3. So next we'll move on to the next slide. So next we'll see the shared responsibility model. Like, so whenever we're using cloud, so there will be some responsibility that the user share and some the cloud will share. So we'll see like what are the responsibilities that we need to take care of. So you can see here the blue color is the customer. The first two, they need to be taken care by the customer, like or the client or the user who is storing the data on the cloud, and the remaining the last 6, they will be taken care by the AWS cloud. Okay, so the first two, the customer data, so the data what you are putting in and taking out of the cloud, so it solely depends on the user or the client. And the encryption, so if you need to encrypt the object before putting into the storage, so the client side data encryption and the customer data, so these two parts will be taken care by the customer, and the remaining the remaining the levels will be taken care by the AWS cloud. For example, the server side encryption. So you need to worry about how the server is encrypting the objects you are putting in the S3, and the network traffic. Like for example, if more number of devices are getting the data that is stored in your bucket, it will be all taken care by the AWS itself, the OS, the firewall, everything. So basically, you need to be aware of what data you are putting in and out, and the encryption what you need to be taken care of before putting the objects. Okay, so this is a shared responsibility model for S3. The same applies to like there are some other services in AWS as well in this particular tier, like key management service and DynamoDB as well. Uh, that services will be covered later part in the Cloud Practitioner Bootcamp. So stay tuned. So next, we'll move on to the bucket policy. So I have said earlier, right? So there's a concept called bucket, right? So in order to give access, like if there is a particular storage, you cannot allow all the persons to access like the resources that are present in your bucket, right? So the main principle of using a cloud service is like give the least privilege, right? Only give the access to the person what they are requesting for, right? So you should not give the any other extra access to the person who is not using that. So it is not a best practice to follow. So what bucket policy does is like it gives you a centralized access to control your buckets. Like for example, it can be any condition, like the operation in the sense like the get and put operation, the get in the sense like uploading and downloading objects from the buckets. And you can also limit the request in the sense like for example, with the help of IAM, you can create user roles groups. You can segregate all that we are using bucket policy and the resources as well. Like for example, on a particular bucket, you need only some particular resource to be shared among others. You can do that as well. Okay, and the bucket policy is like it is used to grant the permissions to other AWS accounts or IAM user permissions to the buckets and objects. So as I said earlier, so to create a bucket policy, so you should be the sole owner of the bucket. So other than the bucket owner, so you will not be allowed to create a policy for the bucket. Okay, so keep that in mind. So the last thing is like if you're creating a bucket policy, so the size is limited to 20 KB in size. So normally the bucket policy will be in a JSON format. So you need not to be code manually. Like if you already know like how a policy works, and you can like with some examples you can write your own policy, or AWS simplifies that as well for you. So there's a feature called bucket policy generator, so which provides you a graphical UI where you can with some selections you can create a bucket policy according to your need. So we'll see that in a short note. So next is access control list. So both these like they are used to access the control to the bucket and objects. So the access control list, what it does is like it manages the access to buckets and objects as well. Like in bucket you cannot manage the individual objects, but you can do that in access control list. So whenever you're creating a bucket or an object, the ACL is attached to it as a sub resource. Like for each and every bucket and each and every object, you will have an ACL attached. So you can, with the help of that ACL, you can restrict the permissions, right? The read permission or the write permission for the particular object or the bucket. So you can do that with the help of ACL. So they are independent of each other. For like bucket and object, so they are not mutually dependent, they are independent. For example, the bucket can be private, so inside a private bucket one particular object can be public, so you can do that. So next one is like as what previously bucket policy does, it defines the access to the AWS accounts or some predefined AS3 groups which are created using the IAM. So if you're new to IAM, so just check on like the IAM bootcamp, like the video done by Ganesh. So he explains like how we should create an user group roles in IAM and how we can access that. So coming next, so whenever we are creating a bucket, right, by default the ACL will be set full access to the owner who is creating the particular bucket or an object, right? It's a default control that AWS does. Okay, so basically the bucket or the object what you create, it will be private by default, like, or the owner only will have the full permission to manage the bucket or the object. So next, before moving on to the storage class, I like to show you like how the bucket and objects are. So normally, this is the web console for the Amazon S3. So you can go here and select buckets. To create a new bucket, you just need to select create bucket and on the bucket name. So here you can see, right? So bucket name must be unique and must not contain any space or uppercase letters. So it can be of lowercase letters, and you can include hyphen as well. So now I'm just creating a bucket called AWS User Group Madurai session 1. So I'm just creating a bucket named this, and I'm just using the region as US East 1. So you can see here, right? The ACL is disabled, but you can enable here as well. But once after the creation of bucket, also you can enable the ACL like for an object or a bucket. So it depends on you. So as I said earlier, like whenever you're creating a bucket, it will be all private by default. So if you don't want that to be, then you can unselect this. Then the bucket and the objects will be public. So we'll do that later. So we'll talk about versioning encryption. So I'm just clicking on create a bucket. It will take, yeah. So a bucket has been created. So AWS MDU session 1. So this is the bucket. So we created a bucket. So now what we have to do is like we can upload some files. So files in the sense objects. You can see here, right? So you can select upload. So before uploading that, I'll show you the ACL like linked with this particular bucket. So you can go to permissions and you can see like the public access is been blocked, and you can hear a bucket policy and account control list. So you can state like whoever has the access to read or write the objects or the ACL. So by either bucket owner or everyone who is having the link to do so, or some authenticated user groups that has been created with the help of an AWS account, IAM, and S3 log delivery. Like if you're enabling some server logs, then you need to give access to write permissions here, right? So these, as I said earlier, like ACL will be added as a sub resource for the buckets and objects you are creating. So now, as I said earlier, right, the ACL will default give the full access to the owner. So here it says bucket owner has the write access to objects and read access to the bucket and ACL as well. So this is what I'm speaking about, the access permissions controlling using ACL. And you can see here, right, bucket policy. So here I didn't have any policy mentioned, but if you need to create a bucket policy, you can just click on edit here. So if you know like how to create a policy, then you can just there are some samples available on AWS as well. You can go there and see some samples, and you can write your own code. Or if you don't have that much time or patience, then you can use an other thing called as AWS Policy Generator. So in this policy generator, you can select which type of like for which you are typing the which type of policy you are writing. So I'm just doing here a S3 bucket policy. So effect in the sense like whether what should I do this policy. So I should allow the users or I should deny or allow the access. So principle in the sense like who like to the to whom I should give the permission, either an user with AWS account or everyone or specific IAM user role or groups. So you can do that here. So if you give star, so star in the, it's a wildcard. So like wildcard in the sense, so star basically it tells us like allow all the users, like everyone, the public or the AWS user account owners or the all the user groups that are created or associated with this particular S3. So you can say like that, and you can see the service selected is as S3 and the actions. So actions in the sense like what are you going to do with this particular bucket. So I'll show you some like some selections, like whether you can give access to the person who are using this bucket policy, whether they have access to delete the bucket or not. So if you want to give them the access to delete a bucket, you can just simply select here and the resource name. So what resource am I giving permission to, right? So you can see here, right, for your bucket, for all the resource that you are creating or using in AWS will have a separate resource number. So you can just copy here and I'm just pasting here. Once I have pasted the resource, then I can say, right, so the star slash what I'm adding at the suffix is like I'm saying in that particular bucket whatever the files are present inside the bucket, same applies as for them as well. So like they can delete that thing as well, or whatever the action I have given corresponding to them, so they can have access to that as well. So if I click on add statement, you can see here, right, when we click on generate policy, tada, like without that much of effort you have created a bucket policy yourself. So you can see here like the policy will have an ID as a version, like what version is following the policy. Then the main thing is these four things. So the action what we have given earlier in the web console is like I'm just giving the access to the person who are accessing to delete the bucket. And the effect is like the effect can have only two value, either you're allowing the access or just you are denying the access. So that thing. And the resources like it's my the bucket that I have created now, the AWS UGMTU session 1 and all the thing inside that as well. And the principle is like anyone can do that. So that's what the wildcard says. So if you want, you can just copy the policy here and you can close, you can come here and you can just paste here, and if you give save changes, the changes will be reflected to your bucket, and the person, they can delete your bucket like if they got access to. So these are the examples like how to create an bucket and how the ACL is associated with the bucket and how you can create your own bucket policy. So next, I'll try uploading an object and show you as well. So we'll add some project. So the objects can be anything. It need not specify to a data type. For example, I'll upload this PNG and I'll select, click on upload. You can see that it says upload succeeded. So the file what I have selected is uploaded to the bucket. So you can see here, right, that PNG file which I have uploaded here is present. Okay. So if I select on this and when I go to permissions, so you can see here, right, the access control list associated with that particular object. So by default, as I said earlier, the bucket owner will be given full access. So if you want any other person to have access, you can edit it here. So access control list will be available as a sub-resource for all the objects and buckets that are in S3. So next, we'll move on to the slide. So now let's come to like what are the storage classes that are available in S3, so I can store my data or object in. So the one which we have currently used, right, it's an standard storage. Like you can see here, right, the storage class has been used here is standard. So you can let's see like what are the different storage classes available. Then we'll see like how to store in them. So at first, whenever you try to create a bucket and store an object, by default, it will be stored in S3 standard bucket storage class. So what are the specialty of this class is, like, you can store the objects which you access frequently, or that's an active object that you need for your application or some program. So you can store the objects here, and the access time here, it's like in millisecond access, right? So you can get or put the objects with ease in milliseconds. So the data what you're putting on this object will be, as I said earlier, like, it's durable, so it will be available in other three availability zones. And the cost, like, for storing in this particular standard class is like $0.0210 per GB for the objects you're storing in this particular bucket. So next, like, the x-axis goes like the access frequency will be less. Okay, so the first one, the standard you're frequently using, and so you're using that particular bucket here. So the next comes intelligent tiering. So what this particular storage class does is, like, for example, if you are storing some data into your object, for example, consider an JPG file or PNG file. So it will analyze like what kind of objects you're storing in this particular class, and it will access the pattern, and it will suggest you, like, for example, for different storages, it will have different type of costs associated with it for the storage. So for example, in this intelligent, you have stored objects in intelligent tiering and you haven't accessed it frequently, then it will suggest you, like, you haven't accessed these objects in for a while, and you can move this particular object to another storage class, which is very much like lesser cost compared to here. So it automatically moves objects there once you put your objects on intelligent tiering. So here also the access second is milliseconds, and the data will be available across the availability zones, and the cost varies from $0.021 to like $0.125 per GB. And in this tiering, so it is doing some analytics process, like it is accessing your data patterns, right? So it will charge some fees for monitoring your data patterns. Okay, so a particular fee will be associated with it. And here there is a particular time, so you should make the object stored here for some particular storage duration, then you can move on to another storage class, or you can delete the objects. So the next is S3 standard IA. So IA in the sense infrequent access. So whatever the data you are not accessing frequently, you can put here, and the access second is same. You can access the objects with milliseconds, and the objects what you're storing here, it will be available across the availability zones, and the per GB day storage rate is $0.0125. So you can see here, right, the cost compared to standard and standard IA. So standard IA is like somewhat lesser than standard, because you're putting the objects which are not accessed frequently. So that is the best benefit you can take out of the different storage classes available in this particular S3. So when you store the particular data in this standard IA, then if you need to retrieve that object, like I need to access this object frequently from now on, so you need to retrieve that object and move to some other storage class. So that particular operation will also be charged, and it also has a minimum storage duration and minimum object size. Like storage duration can be 30 days, and object size is like you should upload an object of size greater than or equal to 128 KB, something like that. So it has some these many restrictions as well. So next we'll move on to S3 one zone IA. From the name itself, you can like grasp the point, right? So the name one zone, it states that the data what you're storing in this particular bucket or the object, so it will be only available in one zone. Okay, so it is for infrequent access. So the AWS will not replicate the data or the bucket across many availability zones. So it will be in one zone. So it is based on the sole responsibility of the user who is using this type of storage classes according to their usage needs. So if you're using some inaccessible data, you can store here, and this you can see, like the cost is drastically reducing when you're storing the infrequent access data in different storage class. It also has a retrieval fee associated with it, minimum storage duration, like it can be 30 or 60 days, minimum object size. So you should upload an object of size greater than or equal to 128 KB, something like that. And next is S3 Glacier. So for example, if you need to archive your data and store it in some other storage class, you can use S3 Glacier. So the retrieval time here is like some minutes or hours. It depends on the size of your object. So here it doesn't. Your data will be available across the 3 availability zones, and you can see here, right? The cost per GB is $0.040. So it's very much less compared to the previous ones, and the same it applies here. Like once you're retrieving an object from this particular storage class, it has some fee associated with it, and it also has some storage duration and a restriction of object what you're storing here. And the last one is S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So if you're like archiving the data like in S3 Glacier, and you will not like, this will be useful when you are enabling the lifecycle policies like different storage classes. We'll talk that in a bit later. So the S3 Glacier Deep Archive, it is also used to store the archive data, and the access time is like it depends on the object, 12 to 48 hours, because the data will be archived, and the data will be available across the availability zones. And you can see here, right, the cost per GB is very slow, very small or less compared to the previous storage classes. And it also has some retrieval fee and storage duration and minimum object size. So I'll show you like where you can select like which object should be stored in different storage class. I'll show you here. So for example, you can see here, right, this particular object is stored in the storage class standard. So if you want to change that, you can it's not here. On actions, you can edit storage class. Like there's an feature like to edit your storage class once you have uploaded your object into the bucket. So you can select the storage class while uploading as well. So you can do it in any ways, once uploading or on the time of uploading. So I'm clicking edit storage class. Now the object which I have uploaded is present in S3 standard. So if I want to move this particular object to standard IA, so I can select this and save changes. So you can see here like successfully edited the storage class. So now you can see here, right, the particular object d.png is available in the storage class standard IA. So likewise, you can have different storage classes associated within a single bucket. So it depends upon the client who is putting the objects here in the bucket. So we'll see like more on how storage classes is really used when we are dealing with lifecycle policy. So next, we'll move on to versioning. So as I said earlier, like in the bucket you can have the different versions of the same object. So what the main use of using enabling versioning is like, you can preserve or sometimes like due to some unavoidable circumstance, your object got deleted from your bucket, and there is like you have no ways to recover it. So once versioning is enabled in your bucket, so you can retrieve the object which has been deleted unintentionally. So whenever you are deleting an object from an store bucket, so if your versioning is enabled, then it will create a delete marker for your object. So once when you need to retrieve or you need that object back, you can delete that particular delete marker, and you can get the object back on the bucket. So it says like unintentional errors or override can easily regain with versioning. Yeah. So if you're like, for example, like you can say like if there are different versions available like for the same object, like if I'm getting an object with particular thing, then what does it gives me? Like if you're getting the object using the get request, it gives you the latest version of the object that is available in the bucket. Okay. So this is just for your information I'm saying. So you can see the image here, right? The same PNG file, photo.png, but you can see here the version ID is different, 012345, and here 012346. So this is how the versioning is used in AWS S3. So I'll just show you a demo on how the versioning is used here. So for example, you can enable versioning at the time of creating a bucket, or once after you creating a bucket, you can enable the versioning as well. So for example, if you go to properties, you can see here, right, bucket versioning. So I didn't enable at the time of creating the bucket. So it is disabled by default. So if you need to enable it, you can click on edit and click enable. So and click on save changes. So you can see here, right, the bucket versioning is enabled for this particular bucket. So now you can go back to your bucket. So I have enabled for AWS UGMD session 1, and you can see here an option called show version. So as I said earlier, right, every object will be associated with some version ID. So this null object, it basically states that this is the latest version of this particular object. So I'll try to upload the same object now. Let's see what it does. I will move to community ug.png, open, upload, close. So you can click on show version. So you can see here, right? So the d.png, so it is the uh, it is object that I have uploaded at the first time. So this d.png is the object that I have uploaded now. So you can see the time difference here, right? So this object has been uploaded at 17:38:9. This is at 42. So this is the latest version. Okay. So the object here is null because I have enabled it later. But whenever at the time of creating your bucket, if you're enabling version ID, so you will have some version ID associated with this particular thing as well. So if for some example, if I'm deleting this particular object, uh, permanently delete, it says like successfully we have deleted your object. So now close this particular terminal. Yeah, 1 minute. It's not here. Just give me a second. Just say that. Community UG. So I'm just deleting this particular object here. Delete. The object is deleted here. So if I click on enable show version, so you can see here, right? I deleted the object earlier. If I just toggle to the show version, the object is not present here, right? So the versioning is enabled on my bucket. So when I click on show version, you can see here, right? I said earlier, like there will be a delete marker created when you delete an object. So when you delete this delete marker, like I'm trying to delete this delete marker, permanently delete this thing. Now we'll close this. Yeah, you can find your object is back on your bucket, right? So this is one of the advantage of using versioning in your bucket. So at some cases, like if your object got deleted accidentally, so a delete marker will be created, and if you need to retrieve that particular object, you can delete that particular delete marker, and you can get your object back on your bucket. So this is one of the example of using versioning on your bucket. So next, we'll move on to Lifecycle. So as I'm speaking earlier, like on the storage classes, so it will be useful like when you are setting the lifecycle policy for our bucket. So there are two kinds of actions that are present in this lifecycle. One is transition action. So transition in the sense like for some particular period, if the particular period surpasses, do this, do that. You can say like that. And another thing is like expiry. So on the time of creating this object, after 600 days or 40 days, expire this particular object. You can set it as well, like that as well. So in this particular image, you can see here, right? So whatever the objects we are creating will initially be on S3 standard. So you can set the life cycle policy as like after 30 days, the object on my S3 standard should move to S3 standard infrequent access. Okay. So because by doing this, you can reduce your storage cost. So if you are using the data frequently, then no need to do that. But if you think so, the data will not be used frequently, then you can set a policy for that. And after 30 days, the data will be moved from standard to standard infrequent access. So again, you can set here, right? After the data has been present in 60 days in infrequent access, then you can move the particular data to S3 Glacier. Okay. So again, the cost of Glacier per GB will be very much smaller compared to standard infrequent access. Again, you can these levels, like, it depends upon the user who is creating the lifecycle policy. It either can be a single level or a multi-level. So I'll show you like how to create a lifecycle policy as well. And again, like, your particular data will be in S3 Glacier for a period of time. So once the data surpassed for 465 days here, then you can delete the particular object. Like, I don't need this particular object, so delete that. So you can set rules like these to take care of the objects that are present in your bucket. So by doing this, you you don't need to manually move objects like to different storage classes to reduce your storage cost. So if you know earlier, you can set up a policy like this, then the AWS will automatically takes care of moving your objects to different storage classes by reducing your storage cost. So I'll show you how to create a lifecycle policy here. So you can come here. If you go to management tab on your bucket, so you can see here, right, lifecycle rules. So currently there will be no rules associated at the time of creating your bucket. So if you want a new rule to be associated here, you can click on create lifecycle rule. You'll be redirected to a page, and you can give a name for your rule. Like, if you want this particular rule to be utilized for some other bucket, you can reuse that as well. So now I'm giving AWS UG, sorry, caps is not AWS UG MDU life cycle rule. So I'll just give life cycle. So you can use these rules for like an individual folder in your bucket. So you can do this by creating a filter, like filter in the sense like the path of the storage of the object folder, which you need to move across different storage class on some certain period of time. So now for a demo purpose, I will do this object apply to all objects that are present in the bucket, and it will ask you to acknowledge that you are selecting this. So I will acknowledge that, and here you can see like there are some different lifecycle rule actions that are here. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm just going to move the current versions of the objects present in this particular bucket between some storage classes that I intend to move on. So when I click this, you can see here and separate window, like a pop-up open here. Like, but initially now, like, I have changed the storage, right, from standard to standard IA. So my current storage is standard IA. So where I should move, so for example, I will move to one zone IA after 30 days of object. Now again, if you need to move your object from one zone IA to Glacier, you can see here, right, Glacier. And after 60 days from Glacier, you can again add a transition like Glacier deep archive, right? So the graph, like, it reduces like whenever the data gets infrequently accessed, then you can move to the respective storage classes in the hierarchy, and you can add this here. And if you want to delete the objects once after this, you can click on delete expired objects after 60 days. You acknowledge that here, and when enabling this particular option, it says here, like, if you're deleting, whether you need to, like, if I delete an object from a particular bucket, so it will create a marker, right, whether I need to delete that particular marker as well. So you can select here like delete the marker as well, and if anything is uploading, you can do that as well. You can see here, right, the overview, like what our life cycle has been formed. So day 0 objects will be uploaded. After day 30, it will be moved to one zone IA, and day 60 it will be moved to Glacier flexible. Here we can say 90. After the day 90, the objects will be moved to Glacier deep archive. So after that, you can permanently delete as well. Like, after 90 days, for example, after you can say like 120 days, you can delete the object. Okay. So there are two, like, if you're enabling versioning, so that will be two versions. So you can say expire my current version objects. So after 120 days, so you can see here, right? Objects uploaded after day 30 move to one zone IA. After day 60, it's moved to Glacier flexible retrieval, and after day 90 it moves to Glacier deep archive, and after day 120 I no need the object, so expire the objects. So this is the use case of creating a lifecycle policy, and you can associate your buckets. So when you click on create rule, the rule will be created. So it says, like I said, like minimum storage duration should be there. So it's asking for that. So once you give all these particular config for like the configurations according to your need, then you can select create rule. The rule will be created and it will be enabled to your bucket. The rule named, like we named it AWS UGMDU Lifecycle. So the rule is created, right? So this is the use of creating a lifecycle policy and the expiration as well. Like we have created, right, after 600 days expire the current versions of my object. So you can do that for previous version as well. Like if there is an object of 2 version, then you can expire the current version as well as the previous version. You can set the configuration there in the while you're creating the lifecycle policy. So next we'll move to replication. So replication is like one another like feature like offered by S3. So for example, you want to back up your data that or replicate the bucket you're using now into some other bucket. So you can do that. Like you don't need to do manually upload both objects here and there. So S3 gives you a flexibility to replicate the buckets. So with the help of S3, you can replicate your bucket on either the same region as or the cross region. The bucket can be either present in the same region or cross region. It is solely up to the person who is creating the replication rule. So like the name itself suggests, right? So same region in the sense the copy which you are making to then another object will be present in the same region as of your original bucket. So cross region in the sense your backup or the temporary, like the one which you are taking the replication will be present in some another region. For example, my source bucket is in here we say Virginia, then my duplicate in same region, it will both will be in the same Virginia region, but in cross region, my source bucket will be in Virginia, and I can set my destination like the replica bucket to be present in some another region like Ohio, something like that. So it is based. It falls up to the user like based on what need he needs, so he can set the rules according. So as I said earlier, right? So now we'll see just like this diagram shows like how the cross region replication works. So my source bucket is in North Virginia. So I'm just adding a replication rule for the bucket. So whenever I upload anything to the source bucket, you should replicate the object to another bucket. It is in cross region in Ohio. So object is replicated to the destination bucket, which is in Ohio. So this is the basic workflow how the cross region replication works. So I'll show you like how you can enable the cross region replication rule as well in AWS S3. So again, you go to your bucket and select the bucket which you need to be versioned. You go to management. So here you can find replication rule, right? So create a new replication rule here. So likewise, we named a rule for lifecycle policy. The same you can do here for replication as well. So I'm just doing the same stuff, AWS UG MTU replication. And here the source bucket is present in Virginia, US East 1. And you can like as we did earlier, like you can store only some particular folder or object to some another bucket, or you can do it for all the objects that are present in current bucket as well. So it again falls to the use case of the user who is using this particular feature. So I'm just going to apply to all bucket. And if I need to like if the bucket the destination bucket is in the same account, then you can click on the option like in this particular account, or if that bucket is associated with some other account, you can select this and give the account ID and bucket name. So now I'm just going to give this as a bucket in this account, and you can browse, right? So you can see here, right, all the buckets that are currently associated with my S3 account or on Virginia region, but when I select or one of these particular buckets, the replication will be like same region replication. So if I need to do in a cross region, I should create another bucket having different region, and I should select the bucket here. Doing that, so it enables like you're storing or you're replicating the source, the destination in a different region. So that is a difference that you need to make while doing or making this policy. So now I'll select demo bucket 1 and choose path. So do like whatever object I add or delete here in this particular AWS MDU session 1 bucket should replicate in the demo bucket 1 as well. So if there is any other rules, like if you're having rules existing, you can clear that, or I'm just going to create a rule here now. So I'm just leaving the encryption and this part later. So once you have set all these, then you can just click on save. So it is asking me like there is some particular objects that are already present in this particular bucket. You want me to replicate that, or you want me to do like the new objects which you will be uploading later? I should do that. So you can select this option based on your need. So I'll just say replicate the existing objects as well. Okay, it's creating a job. We don't want that. So now we can see here, right? The replication rule is created. So whenever I'm doing something or uploading an object here in this particular session 1, it will be replicated to the demo bucket, which is I have created here. So I'll just show you like uploading a different file here. Let us upload a file called AWS UG template. Upload. So you can see here the object is successfully uploaded in this particular bucket. So now we'll go to the replication bucket, which I have set here, right? This is the replication bucket I have set. I'm just refreshing this particular bucket. It takes some time to load your changes. Yeah. Now you can see here, right? The Zoom template 2, which I have uploaded in AWS UG MDU session 1 bucket, it automatically replicated here in demo bucket 1. So this is the use of creating a replication policy. So you can like filter it according to your need, like whether you need to replicate only a particular folder or an object. So it basically falls on to your hands. So this is how the replication policy works. You need one source bucket and a target bucket. You set that, then whatever you do in source bucket reflect in target bucket as well. So that concludes the replication thing. Next, we'll move on to access logs. So access logs in the sense like, for example, in your organization, they need some logs like whatever you're doing on your bucket. So if they need the log, then you can get the log by creating another bucket, like for example, a log bucket, and the bucket which you need to be logged, you can set the logs to be uploaded or written to be on the log bucket which you created earlier. So while you're enabling this access log feature, one thing you should keep in mind. So you should not give the log bucket name as your monitoring bucket. So when you're giving the bucket to be monitored as your log folder, then it will create a loop and it will go on. So don't do that. So you create a separate bucket for logs, and you connect the monitoring bucket to the associated log files. So the next image shows clearly like how this is done. So you can see in the image, right? So there are two source buckets, app data and system data. So in my organization, they are needing the logs of both the buckets. So I'm just creating a target bucket. So target bucket in the sense access logs. So I'm just creating a separate bucket for access logs. So here you can find, right? So these both logs from the two different buckets are stored here in this particular format. So it will be in a text format. So you can download and view the text file locally. So this is how the log will be working. So I'll show you how to enable this particular feature as well. So the logging takes some time, like normally a hour or two, based on the request that has been made to your bucket. So I have created this bucket like and 2 hours later, and I have in order to show you like how the logs will be present. So before that, I'll just show you like how to enable this. So you go to properties. So there will be an option called server access logging. So by default, it will be disabled. So if you want to enable it, you can just click on edit and give enable and give the target bucket here, right? So as I said earlier, create a separate bucket for a destination. So in case I have created here the log status bucket. So select this, and if you give choose path, the bucket will be here. So if you want some prefix to be associated with your log, you can do that here. Prefix, you can add something like that, or if you want separate folder, you can create a folder in that particular bucket and you can give the path here. And once when you click on changes, the server access logging will be enabled, and the logs will be sent, or it will be logged on a separate bucket which you have created as a destination log status bucket. So here you can see, right, I have created this like earlier because it takes some time to reflect the log in your bucket. So basically it is a text file. So you can click and you can download this. Community. So when you open this, you can see here, right, this is a particular thing. The bucket is this one on this particular time. The user is the bootcamp user. It's an IAM user I have created for my account. So what he's doing, he's using a get request for this bucket object. So you can find all the information like in this particular file. Okay, so this is like one particular use case of using the server access logs. So if you need logs for your organization, you can do this. So this is the overview of how you can enable server access logging in AWS S3. So next we'll move on to encryption part. So like as I said earlier, right, so the encryption plays a major role like when you're when there is a data flow between the client and the cloud, right? So there are like two types. So the data in transit. So in transit, what I'm saying is like the data that is has been transferring currently live. So that has been like that particular encryption will be like they will establish communication via SSL or client side encryption. It depends on the person. So using that, the data in transit will be encrypted, and the data at rest is like the objects which you have uploaded and how are they encrypted. So there are two types of encryption you can do here: server side encryption and client side encryption. So the name itself suggests, right? So the server side encryption, the S3 encrypts object like whenever you are uploading an object before storing the object on the disk. Like so, S3 is like a disk center. So before storing the object on the disk, it will encrypt the object, and once you need to retrieve, it will decrypt and give you the object on the server side. So you can do this on the client side as well. Like for example, you can have your own application. So before pushing the data into S3, you can have your own key to encrypt the data. So you can encrypt the data and push the data into the S3, and once retrieving the data from the S3, you can have the key on your application to decrypt the data as well. So that is client side encryption. So I'll show you a diagram which gives you a good picture like how this encryption works. So normally there are like in three ways you can do the server side encryption and the client side encryption in a single way. So like the three way, I meaning like three different encryption ways. Like the first and primary thing is like we are using the basic encryption that is being provided by S3. So the S3 will manage the keys for you. So here you can see like it will create a unique object keys for every object you are uploading in S3, and for the object key it will create a master key for that as well. So the what encryption here it uses AES 256. So in the image you can see here, right, so the encryption or decryption part takes place on the bucket side, okay, on the cloud side. Okay, so the client has nothing to do here. So next, we are using the server-side encryption with AWS KMS. So KMS in the sense key management service. So it's another service offered by AWS for managing your keys. So you can choose one particular key from your key management service. So it can either be an default AWS key, or you can create your CMK. So CMK in the sense customer managed keys. So you can create your own key and upload it on the key management service, and you can use that key as well for encryption and decryption. So it is the same as the previous process, but the key will be changed according to your need. So the next one is like if you need if you are suggesting a key, then you can send the key to the AWS. You can select the key, and the encryption and decryption part will be done on the cloud. So you can see here, right? So the client is managing all the keys, but they are not stored on AWS, right? So the encryption and decryption alone will be taken care by AWS, and the remaining thing will be taken care by the client. So the last is the client side encryption. Like normally we know, as I said earlier, right? So the encryption and decryption part will be taken care by the client. So it can either be an application or a program. So you can write your own logic for encryption and decryption, and you can upload the encrypted object, and you can retrieve back the decrypted object from AWS S3. So here you can see the client is managing all the keys, and AWS has no part to do with the keys. So these are some of the example or like the different encryptions available here. So I will show you like how you can enable the encryption as well in AWS S3 for an object. So you can select here bucket, and I'll go to the session one. You can see here, right? For permissions, not here. See here, right? So at default, the server side encryption is disabled. So if you want, you can click on edit, and you can enable it. So as I said earlier, you can use the default S3 encryption, or you can use your own KMS key, and you can fill in your details, and you can just do the encryption as well. So this is how you can do the encryption of objects like client side and server side. So next we'll move on to the object lock. So what the name itself suggests, like you're locking the object, like so the object should not be disabled for some particular period of time or by particular users. For example, the first thing it is states is like a retention period. So retention in the period in the says, like for example, you can say for 300 days you retain my object. So for that particular 300 days the object will not be changed. uh, so there are two types of retention. One is compliance and governance. So if you're using governance retention, then the root user will have access to delete the object. The remaining users will not have any access. And if you're using compliance, so when you're using the compliance retention, the root user will not be able to delete as well. Okay, so the object will be staying until the retention period is over. So you cannot delete that object anyway using the AWS. So only one way you can do is like by closing your AWS account. So that is the one way. So when you're trying to use these particular features, so be careful and use according to your need. So here you can see, right, your object is warm. So warm in the sense like read once and you can read many. So protected. So it can't be overwritten or deleted, right? So you can apply retention period being 1 day to maximum of, like, you can set number of years. So another thing is a legal hold. So legal hold in the sense like you can say like hold this object until I say until I unhold it, right? So for example, I'm just selecting the object for now because I don't know like how many period I should return the object. So I can just select the hold the object for now until I unhold it. So the object will be on hold, and once after the object is on hold, then you can explicitly remove the object. So these are the like two ways you can in which you can object lock your object. I'll show that as well. So in order to enable object lock, you must enable versioning in your bucket. So let's just quit this. Yeah. So in this particular bucket, we can see that bucket versioning is enabled. Okay. So one thing you need to notice here is, right, so once after creating a bucket, you cannot create an object lock. So it says here, right, AWS S3 currently does not support enabling object lock after the bucket has been created. So what you need to do is like at the time of creating the bucket, you should mention that I am going to use the object lock feature. So you should enable it on creating the bucket time. So I'll show you like how you can do that. You go to bucket, you just create a new bucket, use the MTU. object lock. So as I said earlier, like when you are using the object lock feature, then versioning must be enabled. So you should enable the versioning. Then come to advanced setting. You can see here, right, object lock, and you click on enable. See, it is saying like object lock works only in version buckets. So whenever you enable object lock, it will defaultly enable the versioning as well. So here you give the acknowledgement that I will be using the object lock. Then you create a bucket. Yeah, you can see here, right? The bucket has been created with object lock. You can go to properties, and you can see here, right? The object lock is enabled. So you can do this only at the time of creating the bucket. So now I'll show you like how this is useful. You can upload a sample object here. D.png. Upload this file. So now you close this. Now you select the object. And you can see here, right, on the properties, you can see object lock retention. So by default, there has been no retention applied here. So you can click on edit here. So when you enable retention, so as I said earlier, right, so there are two types of retention modes. One is governance mode and compliance mode. So in governance mode, the user with some certain permissions can delete the particular object. Other users cannot do it. When you're using a compliance mode, no users can overwrite or delete the protected object during the retention period. So you see it's stating here, right? On until which date I should retain your object. So the minimum period is 1 day, and the maximum it can be any years. So you select here within 24 hours from today. So it is giving you a warning, right? In compliance mode, an object is immutable until its retain date has passed. So in order, you need to delete that object. So you must close your AWS account. They are associated with it, right? So I'll just now I'll do it with a governance mode, and I'll just save the changes here. So in governance mode, like I'm a bucket user, so I'm the owner of this particular bucket, so I will be granted access to delete the particular object. So another users will not have the particular access. So you can delete the object, but I'll show you like how this operates on the compliance mode. So you can go here, properties. You go to object lock. You can enable the compliance period, and I'm just setting it to be a 1 day. Okay, I'm just setting it for 1 day, and I'm just clicking save changes. So when I try to delete this, delete. Sorry, I just trying to. I just got confused. Just the two things override. So I just uploaded. Okay. So go to this particular thing. Go to properties. Retention mode compliance. Yeah. Then delete. So it says like you cannot delete this particular object for this particular retention period of time. So that is the use of compliance, and there's another thing like the retention period as well. Once the object lock is enabled in your bucket, like a legal hold, you can do that as well. You can go to, so there is no object here, but once the object is present here, so you can enable the legal hold as well. So it's like a option like until you unhold, the object will be undisturbed in this particular bucket. So next we'll see some of the additional capabilities that AWS S3 offers us. So one is transfer acceleration. So this particular feature helps us to speed up the data uploads and downloads. For example, if your storage has been used by your customers across the world, then the speed might be varying across different regions. So while using this transfer acceleration, it will speed up your data upload and download speed. So another feature is requester pace. So normally in the use case, the bucket owner will be charged for the storage as well as the request made to the particular objects in the storage. So when this particular feature called requester pace has been enabled, then the client who is requesting the particular object in the bucket will be charged for their request. So the bucket owner will not be charged for any of the requests made by the person who is requesting. Okay, so this is one another feature, like you can make the requester to pay the charges for what he's requesting in the bucket. So next is events. So you can create some trigger notifications, like whenever some object has been inserted in S3 or it's deleted, you can create some notifications, some with the Amazon Web Services like notification service or queue service. So next is static website hosting. So you can simply host your website on a single, like within a single minute using S3. So you can host your website without much hassle. So next, it offers you a torrent facility. So you can download your files using the torrent protocol. So you can just add add a suffix of question mark torrent, and the object will be available, or it will give you a torrent file to download the object. So next is storage class analysis. So as I said earlier, right? So if you're using some storage class, it will analyze like what data patterns are you storing in this particular object, and it will give you suggestions based on like it should be moved here or not based on the access, either it's frequent or infrequent. So storage lens is another feature. So what it gives is like it give you overall picture of like the expected usage of this particular object. Like if you want, I can show you the dashboard. So it takes some time for you to create the dashboard as well. So sorry. Storage dashboard. Yeah, you can see here, right? This is the storage lens I'm talking about. So it gives you an overall picture of what is the summary, like how many objects have been stored in from which buckets on which region. So it gives you an overall picture of your bucket. This is one another feature like offered by the AWS S3. So another thing is like you can create some lambda functions as well. Like you can add your code whenever the object is getting something from S3. You can modify the data and return to an application as well. So these are some of the additional capabilities what S3 offers us. So next we'll talk about why we need to consider S3. So as they are stating, like AWS S3 is 99.119% data durable. So this is just a statement like, for example, if you're storing a 1 crore object in S3, then you will lose only a single object for every 1,000 years, like based on the stats what they give. So there will be some agreements between the client and the cloud service provider. So based on the agreement, so they are saying this. So we can say that our data is durable in AWS S3. So another thing you should consider while using like to moving to S3 is like it automatically create and store copies of data or bucket what you're creating in S3. So at some certain time of your failure or any threat, so they will guarantee that your data is available when you need it. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of like using S3. So next we'll see about how the pricing is charged for the usage of S3. So the data transfer into S3 is free of charge. So you can uploading is completely free. So the storage is like the per GB month storage fee, like how many GBs you have stored in the particular S3. So it will be you will be charged according to that. So data transfer out of S3 will be charged as well. I think it is free for same region, and other regions it will be there will be some cost associated with it. And the request you are doing, like the get request or put request on the objects in the bucket, so it will also be it will also have some cost associated with it. So uh, and again, like and the last point is the retrieval request. Like for example, if you're moving your object from one particular storage class to another, then you need to retrieve that particular object from that storage class. For example, we can say here I have moved my storage, like the object from standard to standard IA and I need to bring back the object from standard IA to standard, then there will be some particular charge associated with the retrieval. Okay, so we are moving some data object from one storage class to another, so there will be some cost associated with that as well. So this is about the pricing in S3. So next, I'm going to give an just an introduction about the AWS Snow family. So, like you can consider a scenario like you leave S3 apart. So, for example, if you need to upload a large amount of data into cloud, like, and you think you are in a remote location where you don't have any proper internet connectivity, or and again, but you need the data to be uploaded into the cloud. Okay, so at the time, what you can do, like, you cannot rely on, like, for example, we have talked earlier about S3, right? So if you don't have any proper network connectivity, so the objects will face some difficulties when you're uploading it online. So what you will do at that particular time, right? So AWS Snow family will come to your help. Like, this is one popular meme template in Tamil. Like, if you are a Tamil person, you know this. So they are saying like naanga irukom. So what this basically means is like, don't worry, we are here to solve your problem. So we'll see like how S3, how Snow family solves this particular problem of migrating the large amount of data into cloud. So basically, there will be three types of services offered in Snow family. So the first one is Snow Cone. So these services, like, they differ based on the storage capacity and the migration size. And there are some other certain features as well. Like, for example, they some will have some memory graphics included as well, depending upon the use case of the particular object. So for example, if you're using a Snow Cone, like if your storage is less than 8 TB and you can migrate it up to 24 TB, you can migrate the data either online or offline. And another thing is the Snowball Edge. So Snowball Edge, it has two different subdivisions. One is used for storage and compute. So for example, in a remote area, you are using some IoT devices. So if there is no proper network connectivity, you can store the data into some edge devices like this. So it can store up to 80 TB and you can migrate up to petabytes. And you can only migrate this particular data to cloud only via offline. So the next one is the Snow Mobile. So Snowmobile, in the sense, you can see, right, it's like a truck. Okay, so because based on the storage capacity it has, so it is less than 100 petabytes, and you can migrate up to exabyte size level. Okay, so like they will be putting it in a small truck. Okay, so these devices will be sent to you in, like, these are physical devices. AWS sends you once you are registering on their particular platform. So you can explore more on that in the AWS website. So next, like, when we need to use this particular Snow family thing, right? So when you are migrating massive amount of data into cloud, you're facing some issues, then you can use this. So for example, you can see I'm an organization, so I have some TBs or petabytes of data I need to migrate to cloud. So you can just use the Snow family and let the AWS do the uploading work in the cloud. And if you are you're in a place where there is low bandwidth, or your connection is unstable, or there is no connection as well, you can use this particular feature of AWS. So if you're in a remote location, if you need to do some data transfer or storage or processing, you can use this Snow family as well. So these are some of the use cases which Snow family addresses. So next, we'll see a simple demo, like how we can host a static website using S3. So you, like, it's saying like, you don't have to be like spend more energy in hosting a static website by using S3. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm just coming out. So you can go here. So there is already an index.html file I have uploaded here. So basically, like, if you are creating a static website, then you need to point, like, you'll have a root index.html file list, right? So you need to point this particular file in a static configuration. So I'll show you like how you can point this particular file. So you can also have an error file, like if something happens and your website didn't turn up, then you can have some error file to show as well. So in order to enable static website hosting, so what you need to do is, on your properties, you can come down. you can see here, right? Static website hosting. So it will be disabled by default. You can click on edit and you can enable it. And it's asking me like I'm just hosting a static website or whether you need me to redirect a URL or something like that. So I'm just hosting a static website now. So it's asking me an index document where I should start pointing. So here in the case, mine is the same as index.html. So error document, I don't have any error document. I don't have any rules as well. So I'm going to click on changes. So if you come down, you can see here, right? Your setting website hosting is enabled and you have been associated with a link. So when you click on opening the link, at first you will be like forbidden because as I said earlier, like the objects will be private by default. So you should make it public in order to make everyone see your object. So you can click on the index.html, you can click on actions and make public using ACL. You can use ACL to make an individual object public, or you can use a whole bucket policy to make all the objects present in the bucket public. So it's up to you. So I'm just now making this particular file to be public using ACL. So it's asking me like whether you want to make this public. Yeah, make it public. Close this. Now I'm just refreshing it. You can see here, right? The content what I have in my index.html file is displaying here. So I didn't take that much time in hosting a static website. So you can also have all the CSS files associated with it, and what you need to do is you should correctly point to the right resource on your code. Then you can just host your static website without much ease. Like within some 2 to 3 simple steps, you can host your website on AWS S3. So this is one particular use case where you can use S3 to host static websites. Yeah. Next. So thank you. That concludes my presentation on AWS S3. So I'm just open to questions as well. Anusha, you can.
Yeah, we having the questions. I
Yeah,
think yeah, you can go ahead.
yeah. Just a second. Is my screen visible or?
Yeah, your screen is not visible. Your no. Shall I read out the questions or you can see the screen?
Wait, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Uh, just yeah, yeah. I can see the question. Right? Like it is from Aftab, right?
Yeah.
What does cloud native means, right? So I am new to cloud native, but I will say like from my point of understanding what particularly cloud native means is like we are using the like we are leveraging the use of like the distributed uh, services that are available in cloud. I'm not sure, but I'm new to this particular term and topics, but I'm learning every day. But I think from my point of like from my current understanding, I would say like mm, it's like we are building and running applications like to take the advantage of the distributed services that are available in cloud. I think so. There will be some like advantages will be there, like scalability, elasticity, something like that. So I don't know, like Vivek, if you have something you can support with.
That Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. So just to have a thing about cloud natives, like whenever you talk about something native, is about the default services that is already
Hmm.
there, that is pushed to cloud. So for example, like you already have something called a database which is available. So having something, a database which is hosted in cloud, is like something like that. So cloud native refers to the services which is more pertain to cloud, and it's a existing services move to cloud. That can be the simplest example, that like explanation that we can offer. So I think that sums it up. Then I guess we have a couple of questions as well, so I think we can start taking
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, like Venkatesh, like you don't need to learn much, like if you are going to use S3. So like for example, if you watch a 30-minute tutorial or 1 hour tutorial, you can easily upload and download data using S3 by knowing some slide policy, like if you know how to make your objects public and how you can make your objects like publicly accessible to like within your organization or everyone. So there are some slight terms that based on your use case you need to learn, and like the uploading and downloading part is like very simple. Like as I've shown earlier, like you can simply drag and drop, or you can upload using the console, or you can use AWS CLI as well to upload your files in AWS S3, or you can use SDKs like while running a program you can upload files from your device. So there are many ways to upload and download data from S3. So non-technical users can use the console, so it will be very beginner friendly and you can do that. So if you are the owner, then you don't have to have any permissions, so you'll be granted all the permissions at the time of creating a bucket, so you can easily upload and download the objects as so. Yeah, you can sync, for example, you have your local bucket here in your local machine, and you can sync by using I think you can use AWS CLI to sync between two buckets. So I haven't used that particular thing, but I think it is possible to sync the data store with S3. I don't know like how we can do it with other cloud providers, but you can sync the buckets within S3 as well. But other cloud providers like will cover it. I'm not sure. Like, Vivek, can you help that? Like, how we can sync data with other cloud providers? Like, I think
Yeah.
there will be some external companies. Like, for example, I know one of my friend is working in a cloud migration company, so they help people move data from one cloud to another cloud. So they have their own inbuilt tools and they have their own application doing that. So it basically depends on the data you need and how large the data is, and like I think it will be somewhat costlier. I don't know how the single user can do that. So Vivek, you can add some point.
Yeah, I think there is one exclusive service called data sync. So that's whole
Hmm.
purpose is to actually sync to migrate the data from your on premises to AWS cloud. So so data syncs actually helps you to sync your on premise data to S3, and it can be like S3 is one optional
Hmm.
destination, but it can also offer to store your data in different formats. So you can check out data sync, and that actually helps you to migrate all the stuff. And I think for that it actually has some incremental charges for migration and stuff, but other than that it actually serves the purpose for you to do everything. Okay, I think that answers Venkatesh's question. So uh, I guess we have
No other,
answered
no
a
other
couple of
question.
questions. So yep. So but I do have one question for you from personally from my side.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you were talking about versioning of S3 buckets, right?
Yeah.
So so how can I actually maintain a number of versions? And if I need to revert my S3 bucket to a particular version and extract its object, so what's the procedure I need to start with?
So Vivek, as I have shown earlier, like you can have the multiple version of the same object. So the object which you have uploaded last will be your latest version. So if you need to go back, you can delete the latest version, and then automatically the object will be like for example, you consider like I have an image .png file, I have uploaded it 4 times, so fourth time will be the latest version of the particular image. And I have like we can take it as a code file. For example, it will be more easier. At first you can see index.html. In that there is a particular line called, this is like session 1 on index.html, and another version I'm changing it and uploading it as another version by changing the version 1 as version 2. And another times I'm uploading the same index.html file by changing some slight modification in the content, version 3. So now what, when you access the particular object index.html in S3, so it will give you the latest version, which is uh, index.html with the word version 3 in it, like some paragraph or h1 tags in it. So if you want, I need version 1 to be printed, like whenever I'm trying to access the index.html from my bucket. So what you can do is you can delete the two earlier versions of your object, then currently you can make, or you can retrieve the version which you need to do. So like, so likewise you can like go up and you can come back by using the versioning in AWS S3.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Yep. So one thing, it's not a question, but more like an opinion that I would say. So there is
Yeah.
always a confusion that exists in the minds of developers. Like hosting is one big thing. Like there are more application developers, but hosting is one thing which they always care about. But when it comes to static and SPA, static files and more like
Hmm.
a single page applications, I guess the S3 is one the cheapest way to host it without actually
Yeah.
caring about the internal details and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
so if you're a new application developer and you want to host your own portfolio file, website or something like that, the better option is to go for S3. And there are of course other open source
Hmm.
like GitHub, but yep, if you're exploring AWS, that would be the better option. So I do actually love that part of S3 as well. So I think we have come to an end of the session as well as the QA. So I think Anusha, are you here? Can you?
Eh,
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I will present. I will share the screen, and you can walk through the AWS Cloud Practitioner contest
yeah,
process.
sure. Great. Okay. So, yep. So, we are now in AWS Cloud Practitioner Bootcamp, and this is the fourth episode which we saw about S3. So, the first four episodes, like the first three episodes, were on different topics. The first episode, which was hosted by me, was on AWS, how to create your first account and to get know about the basics of cloud and the service models and etc. And the second episode was by Ganesh, who actually explained how what is IAM, which is Identity Access Management, and how you can actually create and manage all those users and groups inside AWS account. And we had our third session Tuesday, day before yesterday, by Neetu Manan, who actually explained us what are the how we can actually manage our compute services. So we went a complete deep dive in EC2, but of course, like the EC2 is quite a bit long. Topic. So we ended with part one. So we covered all the EC2 related stuff. But yep, the part two of that EC2 episode will be continued on Saturday, which is day after tomorrow. And today we have Poobalan, who actually well explained on what are the different type of S3 and how we can work on it and so on. Actually, it was pretty interesting for me as well because I can refresh all the content which I used to learn earlier. So coming back to our bootcamp. So, our main aim of the bootcamp is to help people to get started AWS. But the only thing is, like, you cannot really achieve learning something only by learning the concept. So, we actually enable you to also take up the hands-on. So, what we also have is like we have a very curated and very simple contest. So it will be based on the topics which we have taught you. For example, the first task is about on the episode 1 and 2. So we will give you a complete walkthrough of what to do and how to do it, and you have to perform, like, follow the instructions and do the same. And as part of the end of the contest, like, we have a Google form which has all the related rules and walkthrough of the task, and you have to upload a screenshot or a video to complete the task. So this actually helps you to have a assurance that you have actually learned something and implemented it. And there might be one common question from you. So, does using AWS really cost you? No. All the tasks which we are designing right now falls under free tier. So, which means there's no incoming cost that you will incur by using AWS. So, you should be feeling very free to go and create your AWS account and start with the task. And before that, please do remember to check out the concepts and learn it before you take up the task. And we have only a fixed time frame that the task will be open. So, and all the task winners will be eligible to buy to get a discounted AWS voucher, and it comes on the first come first serve basis. And at the end of the bootcamp, and you will be having a series of tasks like this based on the episodes we have. And at the end of the bootcamp, we'll have something called a capstone project, which will summarize all the topics which we have learned so far. And the winners of the capstone project will receive some amazing giveaways and swags from AWS, as well as discounted AWS certification vouchers. So we will drop the necessary links for you to get started, or else you can start with joining a Slack channel which has the complete details of that. So check out our form here, so which has a task one. So please do remember that you need to use only one single email so that we can track your progress, and also do make sure that you're submitting your valid answers and so on. So yep. I think that sums up the task. If you have any doubts, please join the Slack channel and reach out to any of me or any of the bootcamp coordinators, and we will really, really help you out. And if you feel any difficulty of running the task, we will actually support and do a walkthrough as well. So, yep, Anusha, I think you can proceed with the next. Yeah, Anusha, I think you can proceed with the upcoming slides. Okay, I have unmuted you. You can carry on. Yeah, can you unmute yourself? I guess you are still muted. Okay. Yep. Can you
Sorry
try
for
it?
the yeah, I will try it now. Sorry for the
Yeah. No
inconvenience.
issues.
I will share it again.
Yep. No problem. So meanwhile, do this is our Slack joining link, so you can join in, and we have amazing stuff going in our Slack channel to learn something. Yep. Yep. Anusha, I guess you can take over.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Vivek. And about our AWS User Group Madurai, why us? Uh, in our community, there are from AWS expert beginner from beginner to expertise. So it will be a great networking. The expertise will be helping out the beginners with clearing their doubts, and it will be a great networking and learning opportunity. And then we will be having a special access to AWS content and the event updates. We will be getting event updates about AWS, and you'll be getting access to special AWS content by winning the giveaways and by credit options, and you'll be getting swag vouchers and goodies as you participate in contests and give and quizzes conducted by us, and it's a good knowledge sharing and learning opportunity. For example, let me say myself, I am a complete beginner to the cloud computing, and I joined the AWS User Group community, Madurai community, and it was a great learning experience. I started with my cloud computing, and I also written the beginner level blog. So it's a great learning platform for us, and you can also share your knowledge as this bootcamp the speakers are from beginner from anyone from who are interested in AWS cloud computing. So it's a great knowledge sharing and learning opportunity. And by winning the giveaways, you will be given AWS certification vouchers. And in our Slack channel, in a jobs channel, we will be all the community members will be posting the jobs and hiring opportunities there for you, and you can utilize the opportunity. And yeah, as I said, it's a great network and learning platform. And then and and our community help you with your creativity by we will be supporting your blogs and videos, any type of content uh, about AWS. And there is no particular level of people from zero to hero level of AWS cloud computing knowledge. Everyone can join our community, and there is no particular regional language. Anyone from any region, any language can join our community. And there are a lot of contests and giveaways are coming soon. There, and will be in future. We'll be having a lot of contests and giveaways. So everyone participate and win amazing vouchers and swags. And don't forget to join our Slack channel. They will In our Slack channel we'll be posting the event updates, and we'll be announcing every under task under AWS Cloud Practitioner Bootcamp task also will be informed in our Slack channel only. So don't forget to join our Slack channel. and and we are not only in a Slack, and and we are in all the social media handles. You can follow us in every social media handles, and you can keep eye on our events. And we are came to an end, and I thank everyone. Thank you for your participation. And a particular thing, if anyone missed the previous AWS Cloud Partner Bootcamp episodes, uh, you can watch it in our playlist, and the link also shared in the comment. You can watch it in our YouTube channel.
Yep. And thank you everyone for joining in. And yeah, please do uh, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because I guess we are all the episodes available in our YouTube channel. If you can go and check it out. So to get yourself updated with the upcoming events and bootcamp related stuff and everything, please try to like, comment, and share. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you have your bell icon turned on so that you can receive all the notification for our upcoming events. So, and also if you can free to join our other social handles, and especially try to join our Slack community, because we have a complete playlist over there to welcome you. And that concludes our today's session. And thank you so much, Anusha, for hosting the session, and Poobalan for an amazing session on AWS S3. I guess that really helps you out in starting with that. So coming to that, to the end of the session, please stay tuned for the task one, which is already updated, and we will keep posting the upcoming task. And if you do have any doubts, please reach out to us in Slack. And thanks everyone for joining in, especially Venkatesh, and Satyan, Mohan, and Arslan, Aftab, Sagar, Gavaskar, and Harish, if I missed anyone. So please stay safe, and hope you see you on Saturday. Thanks and bye.